Just over a year ago, I refinanced my home and I had no idea what I was doing. And right now, interest rates are crazy low, so I'm looking to do it again. This time around, I've done a lot of research. I've calculated a lot of numbers, and I realized the first time I refinanced my home, I made quite a few mistakes, and I kind of hope to share with you what I have learned so you don't make the same mistakes that I did. So mistake number one. This was I simply just didn't really fully understand what it meant to refinance my home. When you refinance your home, here's what's going to happen. You're going to call up your loan officer. Your loan officer is going to be super nice and they will do a hard pull on your credit score. Your credit score is going to go down by a few points. In my case, it's about 5 or 6. Your loan officer is then going to say basically whatever they think you want to hear to get you to do the refinance. You will send information to your loan officer. This will happen back and forth where you send information, you discuss terms, and eventually if you decide to go ahead with the refinance, you sign a bunch of paperwork and you have a new loan. Woohoo! And then you'll pay a bunch of fees that don't really get mentioned. They kind of seem to get swept under the rug as they're kind of put into your your new loan. And so you don't notice, or I didn't notice so much. So that's basically a refinance. And I kind of read about refinance, but one thing I found out is everywhere you read about refinancing your home is usually from like a lender's website or something like that, and they kind of have incentive to make a refinance seem amazing. What I would suggest that you do if you're considering refinancing your home is getting just a very basic idea. Go to good old Wikipedia and read through the things here. It's not very long, but this is a really good starting place just to get you a general idea of what refinancing actually means. The second mistake I made when refinancing my home was that I basically completely trusted my loan officer without really fully understanding what was going on. The thing is, unless you have already a pretty basic understanding of refinancing your home, there's really no way for you to know if your loan officer is being totally upfront with you or not. Now, I don't think loan officers are ever going to be dishonest or lie. I do think, though, that they can word things in such a way that they can say what they think you want you to hear, even if it might not be totally in the best interest for you. One thing to keep in mind, loan officers, they get a commission. Their incentive is to make money, and they do that by getting you to refinance your home. So you really need to have a basic understanding of what's going on before you can really fully trust your loan officer. One way you can kind of gauge if your loan officer is being upfront with you is by asking the right questions. And throughout this video, I will be telling you some questions that you can ask your loan officer to kind of gauge how upfront they're being with you and how much information they're willing to divulge. And by asking the right questions, you can kind of get an impression if they're kind of pushing you towards the refinance or just there as a resource to really help you out. The third mistake I made when refinancing my home the first time was when I compared the loan savings from my original loan to the refinance loan. I didn't really do an apples to apples comparison. I kind of did an apples to oranges comparison. To show you what I mean by that, let me show you a spreadsheet that I put together. Okay, so on this spreadsheet here, you can see my original loan information, and you can compare that to my refinance loan. So I started out at 4.88, and I've got a quote for 3.99, so almost 1% lower. And I've got monthly payments right now of $1,461. And on my original loan, I had monthly payments of $1,461. The refinance loan that had a 10-year shorter term, that was $1,684. So originally, over a year ago, when I looked at refinance, I looked at these numbers and then I was able to calculate what my savings would be. And it was 91,631. That's awesome. That's a lot of savings over the life of the loan. The thing is, this is not an apples to apples comparison. Because the loan terms is 20 years compared to 30, so I am paying more per month. So if I want it to be a real apples to apples comparison, what I need to calculate is, suppose I don't do the refinance, but the amount of principal that I would pay if I do the refinance, I add to my current payments. So that's going to be an extra $223. So in my spreadsheet here, I have a little filled for doing that. So we're at 91,000 right now, but let's go ahead and say I'm going to add on this amount for what I'm currently doing. Yeah, so about 30,000 is what I actually end up saving. That is a different number. So that was definitely a mistake I made. I was doing kind of an apples to oranges comparison, thinking, wow, I'm getting this really good deal. I'm going to save $90,000. When in reality, what I'm really saving is $30,000, which, I mean, I like $30,000. So it's not horrible, but you really want to make sure that you know what you're comparing. Mistake number 4 that I made was not knowing what my break-even point was. If you don't know what the break-even point is, basically when you refinance, there are a bunch of fees involved. So from the moment you refinance, you've basically lost all the refinancing fees. They're pretty expensive. They're about 1 to 2% of your loan amount. So on the first day after you refinance, you've basically lost that. But over time, because your interest rate is lower, eventually you will get to a point where you're not losing money, but you're saving money. That is what the break-even point is. So going back to my spreadsheet, I've got this calculated. So if you look at the fees associated with the refinance, nearly $10,000. Yeah. Basically, when I start out and do the refinance, you can see each month, this is the amount of money that I've basically lost, but it gets to a certain point, and for this refinance, it was nearly the 5-year mark. At this point, I'm starting to save money. So that's pretty cool. But what that means is, if I move out of my house in the next 2 or 3 years, I will have lost all the money for fees in refinancing, and it won't benefit me at all to refinance. In fact, it's going to cost me money. The only way doing this refinance will be of benefit to me is if I end up staying in my house for about 5 years. So that's something to keep in mind. There is a break-even point with the refinance. You should know what that is, and you should have a good idea in your head of how long you anticipate staying in your house to know if refinancing is actually worth it or not. And the 5th mistake I made when refinancing my house was I didn't really consider any other options other than doing what I'm doing now or refinancing. Let's go back to my spreadsheet so I can show you what I mean. The first example of this is going back to making the payment same as if I refinance. I could decide, hey, I'm going to live in this house for just 3 more years. Rather than refinancing, let me just pay the extra principal. Obviously, you can always pay more principal, and that will end up reducing the amount of interest you pay over the term of your loan. Here's another option. Let's say we keep the loan as is. I keep my current loan. Instead of deciding to refinance, so let's just say I pay $9,000 1 month in principal. So right now, total amount of money I'm going to pay for the home, $606,000. Wow, that's a lot of money. But pay $9,000 here. This number goes to $585. I'm not very good at math, but that savings is more than $9,000. So that's another option. If you have money to pay for principal, you could just put it all up front. This is especially a good option if you don't know how long you're going to spend in your house. So there are definitely other options to refinancing, and you could look into even more things. But those were just some things that I noticed. Now that I'm trying to go through the refinancing process again, I realized when I did it the first time, I was really dumb because I didn't do enough research. So I hope some of the information I've shared with you here will be helpful to you. For me to really feel comfortable doing a refinancing again, I really had to put together that spreadsheet just so I could get all the numbers that I need. And I know I didn't really go into any details with that spreadsheet, but I have a link below if you want to download it for yourself. You can check it out. You can plug in your own numbers to hopefully help you figure out with refinancing. If you have any questions about the spreadsheet, go ahead and write a comment below. Hopefully it can be of some use to you. If you've already done refinancing and maybe you have some suggestions for me or for other people, you can also write a comment below. I would be curious to see what other people's experience has been with refinancing. Maybe my fees are way too high. Maybe someone has good experience shopping around and finding ways to get lower fees. Yeah, you should totally write a comment below so I don't make even more mistakes. But hopefully this video helped you some. Thanks for watching.